Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a review on the Kat Von D Metal Matte Eyeshadow Palette. I know that when I first got this palette, I also got the Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette, and I said that I was going to kind of do a comparison video on the two, but I've decided not to do that because I feel like both of those palettes are so different from each other. I feel like they're very different. I don't honestly even consider this one a rainbow palette, and I have a lot of things to say about both palettes. So I decided to just do two separate videos, but I will be kind of comparing them in both videos, kind of talking about their similarities and stuff like that. But overall, they're pretty much different palettes. So that's why I'm doing it this way. Okay, so let's get into this beauty. So first of all, this is a lot bigger than any of Kat Von D's previous eyeshadow palettes. This is the size of her normal eyeshadow palettes. This is the Monarch palette, I believe. It might be sold out now, I'm not entirely sure, but you can see, so this one, it's the same like height, but thickness wise, this one is much bigger. And so that's the first thing that jumped out at me right away, is that this palette is huge. It doesn't really seem like it would be huge because it looks like normal proportions for an eyeshadow palette, but then when you actually are holding it in your hands, you're like, wow, this is humongous. And then the inner design is also different from any other palette she's ever had, because this one has, on the top row, 9 metallic eyeshadows. They are supposedly the similar formula to her crushed metal metallic eyeshadows. I've never tried any of those, so keep that in mind as I'm reviewing these. I'm not really reviewing those, I'm reviewing the ones in here, and I do know that the ingredients, at least the order of ingredients, is different, so the formulation of these shadows is a little bit different than the original metal eyeshadow singles, just so you guys know. And then I'll list below which ones, but I think maybe 2 of the shadows in here are already existent and the rest of them are all new in the metal shadows. And then all of the matte shades, from what I can tell, are brand new shades. Even if you already have all of her eyeshadow palettes and all of her metallic singles, you'll still be getting a bunch of new shades with this palette, which is really nice. And then just for reference, this is what the inside of her traditional eyeshadow palettes look like. So even the pans are bigger in this palette. Similar shape, but they are bigger. So like I mentioned earlier, I don't consider this a rainbow palette because to me it doesn't have the full spectrum of a rainbow. To me, the classic colors for a rainbow palette, or for anything to be considered rainbow, is red, orange, yellow, green, and blue, and then purple and pink are optional. There's not really any red or orange in here, and there's, you know, some blues and greens, but they're not that bright, and I don't know, it's definitely a colorful palette, no doubt about that. To me, it's just not a rainbow palette. Okay, now I'm going to get into swatches, and I'm going to live swatch some of them, and I'm going to show you up close swatches of all of them. So I wanted to quickly talk about the formulation because I heard a few people say that they thought it was really chalky, and I have to say that I understand where they're coming from. I don't think it's as chalky as it is powdery and slightly on the drier side, and this goes for the mattes, not for the shimmers. So for the mattes, I feel like they do have a tendency to be powdery and they're dry. Like, it takes a couple of coats to get full pigmentation. So for example, I will show you this one here, Velour. I'm gonna swatch these 3, Velour, Stone, and Moss. That's what these 3 colors look like on my finger, and then swatching them here. So you can see that it's not super opaque. It's not even as intense as it was on my finger, but that is kind of how they come off on the eyes as well. So they take some building up, but they can be layered. They can be built up. Let me just try to layer one of them for you. Okay, let's try Velour. So you see that one more layer really intensifies that color, and then we can just keep layering it on and really intensifying that color. So it is possible to intensify those colors. I just wanted to show you that if you do see swatches where it's very thin and not very opaque, it's possible to build that color up. So I wouldn't describe them as chalky as much as just kind of powdery and dry, but I do think that they are good quality shadows, and I do think that you can get really beautiful looks with them. I also have to say that I love the selection of matte shades in this palette. It is really like perfection in my opinion. I love all of the neutrals. If you've been watching my last few videos, you know that I've been using this palette in conjunction with other palettes. I did a tutorial on the Anastasia Master by Mario eyeshadow palette, and I actually had to use these 2 shades in that tutorial because that palette didn't have enough matte neutral shades. These are just absolutely perfection, and this brown is really nice, and then they also have a black and a white, which is just pretty much everything you could possibly need to create a million looks. So if you have this palette, I feel like you can do any number of looks that you really want to, and then you have tons of shimmery options and tons of matte options, and it's really great in that sense. Okay, now that I talked a little bit about the matte shadow selection, let's get into the swatches of them. There are 13 mattes in all, and the first shade we have is Linen. That is your pure white. Then we have Jet, which is a pure black. Velour is a royal blue, I would say. Stone is sort of a greenish gray. Moss is your dark green. Ribbon is a dark soft purple. Silk is kind of a dusty pinkish purple. Fringe is peachy pink. I can never decide if the shadow is pink or peach. Feather is your light, sort of a butter yellow. Oak is a dark brown. Suede, as it sounds, is your neutral beige shade. Bone, again, as it sounds, is a off-white. And then Velvet is your deep burgundy. So now let's talk a little bit about the metallic shadows. So like I said, their formulation is a little bit different from the original metallic shadows. I think that the reason for that is because they are in this palette form, not in the, individual containers where they close and they're airtight. So it makes sense that it would have to be a little bit different. My opinion, now, like I said, I haven't tried any of the previous metal shadows. My opinion on these metallics, though, is that I don't consider most of these metallics. I consider most of these shimmery shadows. There's only 2 in here that really are metallic. I'll show you what I mean. So one of the ones that I consider metallic is Flash right here, and one of the ones that I don't is Synergy. So I'm going to swatch both of those live for you and see if you guys see the difference. Okay, so here they are on my finger. So this is Flash and this is Synergy. Okay, do you see that difference? They're both beautiful, beautiful colors and shadows, but this one looks like metal on my arm. Like, it looks like reflective liquid metal, whereas this one to me just looks like a shimmer shadow. Let me know what you think. That's just my opinion. The next one that I consider metallic is Tinsel right here, and I'm going to swatch that next to another one that I just consider a shimmer, which is Ignite. There are those on my finger, Tinsel and Ignite. Again, do you see the difference? Like I said, they're all really pretty, but this one and this one just have something else to them. They have that metallic, like liquid metal look, like I said, and I just feel like they're just more. And this one even is the most metallic, in my opinion. This one reminds me of a pressed pigment almost. It's so intense and beautiful. And I don't have anything against the shimmer ones either. They're beautiful too. I love them. I'm wearing them all on my face right now. But I just feel like as far as being actual metallic shadows, these are the only 2 that actually are. Okay, that being said, let's quickly go through the shadow names of the metallic shadows. So we have Nebula, your royal blue. Watt is sort of a dark teal. Ignite is a lighter teal. Tinsel is a silver with a hint of beige to it. Glitz is a light pink. Twinkle is a light purple. Volt is dark burgundy with a hint of purple in it. Synergy is your chocolate brown, and then Flash is a yellow gold. So overall, I think this palette is really fantastic. I think it's a beautiful palette. I do find a few flaws in it, like I mentioned, but I think it's totally worth it, and I do think that I'm going to get my money's worth out of it. I do think I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. I already have been getting a lot of use out of it. The fact that she put in these perfect matte neutral shades just makes the palette, in my opinion. I do feel like for the price, 22 shadows, this variety, with this many things that you can do with these shadows, it is worth the price. I know that it's a steep price, but I do think it's worth it. You get a nice mirror with this palette, of course. No brush, but that's okay. None of Kat Von D's palettes ever come with a brush, so that's just standard. And the palette itself is made really well. It is huge, which is going to make it traveling with it a little bit difficult, but it's still pretty compact and it feels very sturdy, which I quite like. And yeah, so I want to compare this quickly also to her holiday palette from last year. So this is the Mi Vida Loca palette that came out for the holiday season last year. This is one of my favorites. I will show you. Oh my goodness, look at that. Now this is a rainbow palette. It's hard to get both of these in the frame. They're both so huge. So if you compare the two, the rectangle shadows look like they are about the same size. I'm not sure if they're exactly the same, but they look like they're similar size. If you have this palette, I feel like this one is the perfect complement because if you look at it, all of the shades that are missing from this rainbow are in here, like the matte royal blue, the matte burgundy, the matte dark purple, the butter yellow. All of those shades are not in this palette, but they're in this palette. So if you have this palette and you're looking for even more color, this is a great one. There are no duplicates in this one. So yeah, that's it for this review. That's all I can think of to say. If I think of anything else, I will leave it in the description box, but I love this palette and I do recommend it if you think you'll get use out of the colors. Just beware of those kind of downsides that I mentioned throughout the video. But yes, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That helps other people to find my channel in this YouTube world. Let me know which shades were your favorite. Let me know if you think you're gonna get this palette or if you think you're gonna pass on it. If I had to give this palette a grade, I would probably give it a B+. So it's not an ace, it's not acing, but it's also not failing. It's just a B+. So it's good, and I recommend it, and I love it. It's just, there's a few downsides in my opinion. Okay, so make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I do videos 3 to 5 times a week, and thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys very much, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye.